Our process for our research has been much of what you've described. We also do pretty structured cognitive interviews where we're, similar to testing for the things you've brought up and creating the interviews and looking and refining over time. It's a fascinating process. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's super enjoyable, and it gives you something when you're actually analyzing the data to be like, I think this is how people are thinking about this. And it also, I don't know about you, I'd be really curious. I catch a lot of questions that we should never ask, and I'm so happy we do that kind of work, because you get sort of stuck in your own world sometimes. Like, obviously someone would know exactly what this means, and obviously they would be able to answer it. And then you talk to someone, they're like, what is any of this right here, kind of thing. It's humbling almost. Yeah.
It is very humbling, and it's so interesting because it's like you're testing the human mind. You're probing into, and it's incredible. Like the edge cases, the language. I was just in a conversation with an interview subject about, for example, the difference between the word adequate and sufficient, and how that interpretation was meaningful in their comprehension of the question. Interestingly, after the interview, we looked up the definitions, and there was like a legal law. Everything has like a strict definition. So the legal definitions of sufficient and adequate are different. But what was funny was that this interview subject's own interpretation was the opposite of what the legal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the depth of the problem is humbling.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a whole strand of philosophy that is like language as usage, right? Understanding how people actually use it versus creating analytic definitions and then just saying, this is actually the word. This is what bird means, kind of thing. Actually, let's just go look and see how people use the word adequate or how people use the word sufficient. And that's probably our best bet for having people take a survey. We want to understand how it's used. Maybe the legalese it's irrelevant, because at the end of the day, if you have 10 people tell you this is how they understand it and this is how they're going to answer it, you probably want to go that direction instead of, I don't know, defining exactly what adequate is relative to sufficient or something.
And we haven't even gotten into the challenge of cross-cultural or language translation, which is a beast of a process. I don't know if we even need to get into the technicalities of that, but I do want to ask you, I shared this funny example of adequate versus sufficient, but what are some of the biggest issues you tend to find in your pre-testing?
Yeah, I think first of all, a lot of times it takes people a lot more effort than we would hope, especially when it's somebody we want them to be in the survey, but they're not necessarily an expert on this particular technical capability or technical practice. I think the cognitive load that gets put on people to go through a really technical set of survey questions, even if they are experts in it, is sort of tiring. It is to bring. Sometimes it feels like, and they say this like I'm reading a legal document, because we want to be really specific. We want to make sure when they answer it that we have like really set the boundaries on what this answer really means. But a lot of times that means you have to write a long thing and explain and have definitions, and it's really taxing. And after a couple minutes of going through taxing questions like that, the amount of effort that people can and are willing to put into the survey goes down. And then therefore the answer quality goes down. And therefore your analysis means less and less and less. And yeah, I think that's simplifying the questions that are so incredibly technical, because we're in a technical space. We always run into that problem. It's a guarantee. I have a pre-test up right now, and I'm going to put my money on it that when I get some of the videos back of participants taking it, that's what I'm going to see a lot of.